Dr. Mon, when I say 90s video games, what is the first thing that pops in your head?
PlayStation.
PlayStation?
Yes.
When I say 90s video games, what is the first thing that pops into your head? We've talked a lot about the N64. I think that 2025 might just be the year of the N64 Renaissance. So you've seen the N64 Pi Mini. If you haven't seen that video, you should check that video out. The link is up there. Right up there with the N64 is one of the best-selling video game consoles of all time, the PlayStation 1.
Yeah.
Now, if you remember, near the end of the PlayStation 1 life cycle, we got the PsOne, spelled out O-N-E. And that was this beautiful little rounded console here that you can also opt to buy this fantastic little monitor with. I loved this thing. I actually used it quite a bit in the car when I was around this age. One of my favorite console iterations of all time is the PsOne. And so today, Dr. Mod showed up with something that absolutely blew my mind. And when we were looking for a subject today to do a video on, this was absolutely the thing. And I'm gonna show you this little guy here. What do we call this thing?
It's the Pistation.
This is the Pistation. Now, it's not just a PlayStation, it is also, yeah, it has its own little miniature screen too. Okay, look at this. This is fantastic.
Just when you think this thing couldn't get smaller.
Yeah. I mean, I love the idea of many versions of, now I know that we got the classics, the NES Classic, the Super Nintendo Classic, we even got a PlayStation and Sega Genesis Classic, but they're preloaded with like 25, 30 games at
handful, yeah.
These could be preloaded with backups of the entire library. So you don't have to choose from just a handful. You could choose whatever game you want. And if you thought the Pi 64 Mini was cool, and you looked at it and you were like, oh yeah, that's cool, but you know, my jam was the PlayStation, well, here's something for you. Tell me about it. What is this thing?
So it's a Raspberry Pi 5 in there.
Raspberry Pi 5, which is the same thing that's in here.
Same thing that's in there.
Okay.
It's got the built-in screen there, which is really neat.
Yep.
And it's, I mean, you can play on that screen. It looks great. Excellent resolution. It's got the speakers built in.
And hang tight, because we're about to play on it.
Yeah, for sure. This case was actually made for a Pi 4, but we were able to make some modifications to get it to fit a Pi 5 in there. So now we can use the latest Pi board on this thing, which has got a heck of a lot more horsepower, and play, I mean, everything retro from Atari up to PlayStation 1.
And I see we got SD card slot, just like the 64 Mini. Terabyte?
Terabyte, 1 terabyte.
1 terabyte. Am I noticing that this comes off?
It does come off, yeah.
So just, it actually...
Very similar.
Look at that.
Yeah, look at that.
Holy cow.
Yeah, isn't that very close? It's,
wow.
Yeah, very similar.
You know, the other thing that I am immediately noticing about the Pistation over the 64 Mini, we have real HDMI.
Exactly.
And
much
it's
more
not
convenient.
HDMI micro. Not that there's you don't lose any quality.
No.
But the port in general, not one of my favorite ports. It reminds me of USB micro, which was not great.
And when you plug in the cable, let's say you're gonna plug it into your big TV, it automatically disconnects from the screen there and goes to your TV then. So it's automatic.
This is a level up from the Pi Mini 64. This actually does have a screen on it, which is super cool. And we're about to test it here in just a second. But before that, let's talk real quick about any sort of modifications that you maybe had to do to make the Pi 5 fit in here. Was it too difficult? Did you have to do some trimming or?
Basically just a little bit of trimming.
Okay.
That's it. Like basically, like our Pi 64, it has a little door on the side where you can get to your ports. And so you have the same thing where it has this brancher here that goes off into the front ports here. And then you have 2 extra ones here. The only thing we're sacrificing here is access to the Ethernet port, okay? Which a lot of us aren't gonna use. We're gonna use the Wi-Fi that's already built into the Pi.
It has Wi-Fi.
Yeah, it has Wi-Fi and Bluetooth.
Yeah.
So that's basically how we change it. We just cut to fit everything, and that wasn't much modification needed.
Okay.
But it fits perfectly.
Man, it sure does. Just like the Pi 64, 2 USB ports in the front, So you could hook up a USB controller to it, or you could buy one of those awesome 8-bit do wireless conversion kits for your PsOne controller and run it wirelessly.
Yeah, you could.
Off of this. Given the fact that this is a Raspberry Pi 5, is it basically the same thing?
It's basically the same thing. I made a few software modifications to go with the theme of
To
PlayStation
make it feel
1,
more like PlayStation.
which we'll show, which is really neat. But you know, really, this thing has a huge library of PS1 backups.
Would you? Is it a complete library that you have on here?
Pretty close.
I mean, you could yourself put a complete library on there.
You could.
And then it also does have all the N64 emulator. It's got SNES, Nintendo, Game Boy. It's
Dreamcast.
Dreamcast?
Sega Saturn.
Dreamcast, Sega Saturn. I mean, a lot of MAME arcade.
Oh yeah. And one of the things we've been really enjoying about these Pis and playing around with that Batocera software, which this also has, is we can use our send and light guns on it, or a Wii remote, and play light gun games on it too.
House of the Dead.
You can play light gun games. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. It's one of the best.
Classic PlayStation game. So I think we should probably plug this thing in and check it out. Man, I love this whole, like, what was once old is now new again thing. USB-C. So, you know, your phone charger or whatever. I guess since we're not hooking it up to a TV, this feels weird. It's just,
It's all there.
We're
It's
just
all
going
in there.
straight with it. Holy moly. Okay, and then for the sake of this video, we're just gonna go ahead and use a
PS4 controller.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a DualShock 4, right?
Yep, it is.
I can't help but to smile. Here's the best part, though. Pistation. You made that
I
modification,
made it.
correct?
Yeah, I did that. There's our beautiful
Look at that.
Batocera menu there. It's the Arcade Planet theme. It's awesome.
It is a really nice looking screen. For something so small, I feel like that's totally feasible.
Absolutely. The color's great on it, the resolution. The speakers are pretty good for as small as they are.
Yeah. All right. So here we go. He has synced a DualShock 4 wirelessly to this thing. And let's take a look at it. That is a crispy looking screen.
Isn't it nice?
All right, so let's cycle through. Go ahead and start. Let's start at the beginning. All right, so starting all the way back at Atari 2600, we got 2600, 5200, 7800, Atari Lynx. We got PC Engine, which is TurboGrafx. We got NES, Game Boy, Super Nintendo, N64, Game Boy Color. We got Game Boy Advance. We got a bunch of ports.
Yeah, like Doom.
Of course, Doom runs on everything. We have some arcade games here, Arcade Fighters, Master System from the Sega, the Mega Drive or the Genesis, Game Gear, the Sega CD, Sega Saturn, 32X games, more arcade games, Dreamcast games, PlayStation, obviously, because we're playing it on a PlayStation, and we have PSP games. The PSP games, some of my favorite games of all time are on the PSP. I don't know how well you can read that, but there's 1,287 PlayStation 1 games pre-installed on this thing. What do you want to
should we play?
Let's do Oddworld.
Oddworld, okay.
Yeah, one of my favorites.
You can use our shoulder buttons to navigate
I
through
love
this.
Oddworld.
Scroll down this mega list.
Look at that. And then I will also, I'd like to note that we have some display options here, just like the original did, which gives you volume control and brightness on this display. Now this display is actually a 16:9 display, right?
Yep.
This display was not. That was a 3:4 display, which is why you see the bezel here. But I love what they've done
Me too.
with the bezel.
It's like a CRT.
It's so cool. There we go, look at that. I love this game so much. You ever play this game?
No, I've never played
Oh,
it.
it's so good. I've played this game probably 200 times. All right, look at that. Abe's Oddworld, or I guess I should say Oddworld Abe's Odyssey. How do you get back to the menu from here now?
Just hit the PlayStation button and the start button. Boom, back to the menu.
Right back to the menu. Let's just peek at the beginning of Silent Hill real quick.
Got it.
This is something that people are gonna love. There it is. Oof. Want a little Silent Hill in your life? You know, maybe what you're looking to do is you're looking to lay in bed at night and have that experience of Silent Hill. You can set it on your chest, set it on your little board, and just lay there in bed and play it on this tiny little screen. What an experience.
And then have nightmares about it afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, you could, I assume because it's Bluetooth, you could Bluetooth a pair of headphones?
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
How cool! This is This has got to be one of the coolest things that you've shown me yet. I think that this is so awesome. Konami. God, now I'm starting to think about all of the awesome PlayStation 1 games and experiences to be had on this little device. What a fantastic thing. Listen to that music. You ever play this one?
No.
Oh.
But after playing
Haunting.
PT, I wanted to play all of them.
Haunting. That music. All right, that thing looks absolutely fantastic. I think I might, even though I feel like the N64 may have been more my console, I might be even more excited about this build than I was about that. So let's break it down real quick.
Yep.
This is also made by retroflag. The shell is made by retroflag, and they do make two versions. One that's a regular PlayStation without the screen, and then they make this one here, which is the one with the screen. Yeah. What does this shell cost?
Surprisingly, not that much more than the regular Pistation case or the 64 case. So
I'm guessing like $100.
No, good guess there, but they actually run anywhere from $50 to $59.
Are you serious?
Yeah, seriously.
With the
screen. Yeah, very reasonable.
Okay.
Yeah. Now keep in mind, it was made for a Pi 4, so if you got a Pi 4, it's gonna fit right in there.
Yeah.
But you can fit a Pi 5 in there with minimal modifications.
Yeah, so let's talk about that too. We talked about it a little bit, but you did make some modifications and allows it to fit a Pi 5. We just showed you all the different games that this thing plays. I mean, the biggest selling point, aside from the fact that if you're a PlayStation fan, this is a must-have, is this screen. I love this idea here. And you did point out that if you have a good battery bank, you can actually play this thing portably.
You can.
I feel like the next step is maybe just making one with controls on it.
That's a great idea.
I mean, this thing is one step away from looking like an SP.
You're right.
You know what I mean? If we just flip this thing open and we had some controls right here.
Challenge accepted.
Okay. Watch for that video. Okay, so let's break it down real quick. You said $50 to $60 for the case, okay? The Pi 5, which is...
Run about $100.
Right about $100. You can get yourself one of those handy dandy Bluetooth conversions for just about anything. Your 64 controller, your DualShock 1, your original PlayStation controller, or if you have a USB controller, it has USB ports right in the front, you can plug them right in. You will need at least a 1 terabyte SD card. Those things run
anywhere from 60 to 100.
Okay, and then you'll have to, if you want to put a Pi 5 in this, you'll have to trim it up just a little bit. I went ahead and added links in the description of this video to all the parts for this, but keep in mind, I had no idea this would happen, but after I made that Pi 64 video, these cases went out of stock almost immediately.
Around the world, they're gone.
Yeah, so we can't find these things
and I spoke to the manufacturer directly, and they do plan to make more in the future, hopefully this month, which is March. But you know, it might be a while before we can get our hands on more of those.
So anybody who's been asking about emailing Dr. Mod about making one of the Pi 64s, that's sort of the holdup at the moment, is the cases are sort of unavailable. I didn't realize that the video would contribute to that much to it. But apparently a lot of you guys watch my videos, which I really appreciate. That being said, if you want one of these, I highly suggest getting over there and getting one now. Again, links in the description. And then buy yourself a Pi 5 and, have at it. Or you're willing to take orders, right?
Absolutely.
Until something runs out.
I feel like I'm a baker now because I'm making so many pies, you know?
You make a lot of pies. And this isn't the only one. This isn't the only pie. I'm just gonna get it real quick, just so we can get a little preview.
Let's do it.
So we can show what the next video is gonna be.
Yeah, you're gonna wanna see this.
Okay, so this is also made by retroflag. This is called the NES Pi 4 case. And we're not gonna touch too much on this here because this is PlayStation, but we'll just show you for future reference. This is a NES, right? And you're probably thinking, oh, cool, just another NES shell, just like the rest of these, and you put a Pi 4 or 5 in there. But what's inside here? What do we got here?
Oh, there's a cartridge.
Look at that. There's actually a cartridge in there?
Yeah. What is this cartridge?
Is that a hard drive?
It's a hard drive.
The cartridge is the hard drive. What kind of hard drive is this?
It's a solid state 1 terabyte.
A solid state 1 terabyte inside of this NES cartridge shell. And then it slides into this, and that's your hard drive. You don't need an SD card slot. And Pi 5 in here too.
Pi 5 in there.
Yeah,
yep.
Pi 5 in here too. So, I mean, all of these here are the same innards, just different beautiful little shells. And honestly, I gotta tell you, so far my favorite is 100% this thing. This is so incredibly, I can't express how much I loved this thing growing up. And so to have just a mini replica that I can put all of my backups on and play without having to disrupt my impressive library of games, it's so cool. So all in all, total cost-wise, if you want to build one, you're looking at about, can we get like Dr. Mod cases?
I would love to make some.
Is that something that you guys would be into? Like if we did like a Drmodslab case where, you know, this was offered in different colors, maybe transparent colors and stuff like that. I don't know, I feel like that's something we need to look into. I don't know, keep an eye out for something like that in the future. Now I do also want to point out, you saw the video where we used the light guns on this, the send-in light guns. You plug them right into the front, they have recoil and all that. This does the same thing, it's the same innards, and it works on this tiny little screen here.
It actually does.
Like we pointed out before, the N64 didn't have light gun games, but the PlayStation 1
did.
Had lots of light gun
really
games.
good light gun games.
Some fantastic light gun games.
Yeah.
House of the Dead.
Yeah.
So there you go. That is the Pistation. I'm gonna call it the Pistation Mini with monitor. So cool. And I mean, like, it's a little bulky, but I could fit that thing in my pocket too.
Yeah, good.
You shock me every time you come over. And the amount of other things that we could totally bring in and show, just, I can only comprehend so much at a time. So anyways, if you want to know more on the N64 Pi Mini, you should check that video out right here. And if you want to see more videos like this in the future, and you don't want to miss some of the ones coming up on products that I'm looking at that you guys can't see yet, make sure you subscribe to the channel right here and hit that little bell icon to be notified. Or you can just join the Discord server. The Discord link is in the description, and Discord will tell you when these videos go live as well. And I post exclusive stuff to the Discord channel. You should check it out sometime. Until next time,